Hello everybody and welcome back to Mate Night, where we are reviewing films until someone invites us to Cannes.
Please do.
Which has just been, by the way. Do you know?
Has it?
Yeah,
We
been
should
there.
know that. Well, for what, 2030, is that our aim? Something like that.
Maybe. You're hosted by myself, Jamie, and as always, I am joined by the charming, the alarming, and the disarming. It's Fred!
Very good, very good.
It's almost relevant to the film.
I like it. I like that. I think keeping it apropos of the film we're doing is the way to go forward.
It's too challenging for myself.
Did you see my score, by the way? I just had my notes.
That's okay, I missed it.
Yeah. Pointed at you.
Good.
So there you go. Glad that was missed.
We're going to non-spoiler review Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Score it out of 10 using the patented Mate Night formula, which is never wrong.
Never wrong. Never has been, never will be.
As everyone knows. Then we've got some trivia, and Freddie's bought us a segment.
I do have a top secret segment today.
Oh, should I choose to accept, or am I just getting it anyway?
Accept it.
So strap in, strap on, and let's get this show on the road. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, $400 million budget, the end of a behemoth of a series, and an all-star cast. Was it any good? Fred's watched them all now. I watched just the latest one. We're going to non-spoiler review this film, and then we'll finish with a definitive final score. To get things kicked off, the gut reaction round.
Ooh.
How much did we enjoy this film? Fred first, out of 10, to one decimal place. 3, 2, 1.
4.2.
Oh, 6.0.
Okay.
Okay, so if you really love this film, probably just stop listening now because we're not going to be very nice
We're going
about
to try non-spoilers as well.
Non-spoilers.
For as long as we can hold them in.
Okay, so you've gone through... how many of the ones have you watched recently? How many Mission Impossible films have you watched in the last month?
In the last week, I've watched 4.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So 4.2, is that an accumulation of the previous 4 that you've just watched?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
But I would give it more benefit of the doubt if there was more variety. The issue with the Mission Impossibles is they found a formula which they have used, I mean, almost comically within every... Like, there are so many elements borrowed from each of the other ones that it becomes... It's basically... Mission Impossible is Tom Cruise single-handedly waging a war against the concept of diminishing returns.
Yeah, that seems fair, that. Yeah.
And so if you've watched all of them, it does become quite tiring. And in this one, specifically, they've really got to the point where he seems to be enjoying the smell of his own farts.
Okay.
Like, I will try not to avoid spoiling, but if you've seen any of the others, it's getting to this point anyway. The last couple, he's become Ethan Hunt's become sort of a mythic figure within American intelligence circles and the wider, I don't know, global the global anti-hero space or the nefarious villain network. There are a tenner penny. He's a big cog in the wheel, and there's a part, like the first 10 minutes or so is pretty much just the greatest hits of what's happened so far recap. So 4.2, I've tried to, like, this is gut reaction. So obviously I was influenced by the fact that I've watched so many of this, but really the reason why I did not give it much benefit of the doubt at all is because it's got such a form, it's so formulaic that it's hard to enjoy. Like, there's only so much the stakes can be raised if they've done it every single time to a climax, and then he's come back down to earth, and then they say, scrap that. Yes, it happened, but actually, there's a bigger evil, there's a bigger villain, worse than anything you've seen. There's a hotter love interest than the last one who we killed or we got rid of.
But we're still sad
Don't worry about that. Yeah, I can even tell you the formula, which I'll go through in a moment.
Yeah, so this is like, it's not really spoilers.
Formula.
If you've seen one of them, you've seen them all, sort of spoiler.
Would you like me to go through that?
Let's hear the formula.
Here's the general formula for any Mission Impossible film. So we've just had a catastrophic world-ending event that we managed to avert. Crisis averted.
Thank goodness.
Now, whether it was yesterday or last year, Ethan Hunt is a recluse.
Good man.
Again.
Okay.
Even though he seemed to be in quite a happy place at the end of the last one. Some sort of recluse now. We've got an otherworldly secret enemy, potentially linked to the last one we had in the previous film, or just one that's way worse for some reason. Also prone to retconning some link to Ethan's backstory, which is not foreshadowed in any of the previous films. Then this becomes a clear issue that there's another catastrophe waiting to happen. Ethan goes up against the top brass. So the top brass are involved, tip top of the Central Intelligence Agency or the wider US government Secret Service.
Some suits.
And typically these people will be manifested in the form of maybe one individual who's like a paternal sort of figure with ambiguous morality and objectives, and this person will dislike, admire, and fear Ethan Hunt.
Okay.
In a mixture of all three at different points. So, what will typically happen is this person will either disavow Tom Cruise or will treat him as the only person he can trust in the world. And similarly, Tom Cruise's approach to this person or people is equally
I love how this is
translucent.
I love how this has become Tom Cruise rather than Ethan Hunt.
Yeah. Well, this is the kicker.
Tom turns up.
This is the kicker for the Impossible Mission Force. They go rogue.
Oh,
every time they always go rogue.
Now there's a surprise.
They always go rogue, or they're in this weird in between space of being rogue. Quite often they are framed for something. And it turns out that inexplicably, because this happens every single film, they are the thoughts of the government and the leaders is actually maybe they are the mastermind after all this time, even though this has been disproved every single
from
world
8 films now.
So then this is the point in the film where they might introduce a love interest. She may have to, in order to keep Ethan Hunt's...
No, I like the Tom Cruise.
In order to keep Ethan Hunt's like appeal as like the world's best man, typically they'll kill his previous love interest. They won't just have that he's like interested in multiple people. He'll have to have a catastrophic death. That sometimes happens in the film. Sometimes they're just
flashbacks
death, or she's just no longer in the picture anymore for one reason or many. Then the team plans a heist. That heist will always involve doing exactly what the villain wants.
Okay.
And that is the kicker for them. Every time they're like, wait, so we're just going to do exactly what they want us to do. They go, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Every time they do exactly what they want, but it's all part of the plan. Added to that, they'll do exactly what they want. They'll typically involve Tom Cruise running about. He's always running.
He's quite quick, though, to be fair to him. Watching him run, he's rapid.
Yeah.
He never gets out of breath.
There will always be a moment in the plan where they have to work it out.
Work it out.
And they will say that phrase. They'll go, we'll work it out. I'll work it out.
Yeah.
They'll be like, wait, but how are we going to do this thing that we can't do? We'll work it out. And they always work it out. In this film, this drove the score down for me, was the fact that more than any other, they tried to get away with doing everything they'd done by saying how crazy it was that it was such a pattern of behaviour. So you may have noticed that every time they do something which they've done before, they went, God, this happens every single time.
Yeah.
And so you're like, yeah, but that doesn't forgive the fact that you're doing it. So they did that. They're like, that's just what we do. Yeah, that's how it works around here.
You'll never guess.
Yeah, so that happens every time. Then there's always a countdown.
I thought it was
usually several countdowns in the whole
not particularly well justified in this film.
No.
It's just like there's a clock and that counts down to the time.
The thing that the Mission Impossible films feel like is like a time capsule for 2000 films, early 2000s, where there was always, if there was some sort of action film, there was a ticking clock on the bomb.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore because everyone's like, why wouldn't they just have like a switch that turns the bomb on? Why would they put a 15-minute timer on? Like, let's stop trying to justify the timer.
Yeah.
And so it's really like an archaic plot device.
But with like modern technology.
But then
and
Tom
budgets.
is kind of the last real action movie star
from that era.
Well, just generally, there aren't many like doing it like that. Even like newer ones like The Rock is getting a bit tired now. Tom Cruise is still he's still going strong.
He's 63, you know.
Yeah, he's old, and that will actually play a part into my segment later.
Okay.
And then okay, so the countdown starts. There's some sort of impossible stunt fight, which is always bigger than the last one. And at the end, with 0.02 seconds, something happens.
Okay.
That saves the day. And then rinse, repeat. Literally rinse, repeat for as many of these as you want to do.
Okay, so I'll put this to you then. Yes, the packaging, the way that they package it is incredibly like off-the-shelf textbook and repeated. Specifically, it's repeated.
They've got this formula, and that's what they're going to go with.
Do you think it's fair to say that is justified if the thing that we are trying to deliver is not in fact a story, but Tom Cruise jumping on planes and shit, and it doesn't really matter how we get there?
It felt to me, watching a lot of these, that it was like a TV show. It was a big budget TV show, but not the sort of TV show where you respected the story.
Yeah, I mean, the story was absolutely atrocious. I was really excited at the start when it was talking about AI being the bad guy.
Okay.
That's not a spoiler, that's in the trailer.
Yeah, that's fine.
And it won't spoil it to say this. I just feel like they just didn't utilize what could have been a very interesting. Like, I was like, why are they going down this it was very textbook, right? One of my reviews, I gave it 6.0, right? And one of the things I wrote during it was, this is the perfect film. And by that, what I mean is, like, there wasn't a breath wasted in the 3 hours. Every single line of dialogue perfectly followed the next one. Every single shot perfectly had only the things it needed in it. It was like watching a trailer for 3 hours. It was insane. It was like watching a comic book that cost $300 million to make. Like, it was just fucking perfect constantly. And it just felt so inauthentic because of it.
Yeah. And you're not going in for authenticity, to be fair to
No, of course not. But 3 hours, it starts to really, really drain you. I found. I tried to do some preparation for this episode by watching the penultimate film.
Oh, right.
And I got 20 minutes in, and I was like, I can just see that this is exactly how this film is going to go on for the whole time.
It is mind-blowing.
Like, they literally, the way that the dialogue moves between them, where one will say something and then the other will say something immediately after, and then they like pass the baton around.
I was going to give you that example. So we can kind of spoil the film before, and it's not a spoiler, it's literally just one scene from the film before near the start that I think you're referring to. Is they basically are in a briefing room with like the top brass again, and they are explaining to this guy who Ethan Hunt is and what is going on right now with this AI supervillain. Yep. And instead of getting one person talk him through what had happened, they decided instead to have 6 people in the room, each alternating lines as if it was as if it was one person talking, but they are like snapping between lines,
like really quickly short lines.
It's as if it's a block of text that one person is saying, except without missing a beat, they are interchanging between 6
and not just one
people.
person is saying. It's one person like just blatantly fucking laying everything out to you. Like they're not even trying to hide it. They're just like here, and they did it like every 45 minutes, every half an hour, they'd give you a quick recap of everything expositionally in one of these dialogue scenes, which was kind of useful because coming into the final reckoning, having not watched any of them, having like those constant reminders of like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, I can tell it's obviously just big bad guy, stakes bad, Tom Cruise good, let's jump off shit and blow stuff up. But it kind of helped for somebody like myself who'd never watched any of them.
If you haven't,
the relentless exposition.
If you haven't, and there is fast pace, it's relentless, but it's fast paced.
That was why I said it was the perfect film. Was one of the other things that, and I say that ironically because like I actually didn't like it very much, but it was the storytelling was so textbook. It was like we are going to just every single scene is going to have like some kind of tension in it. We're going to set you up with a problem. We're going to create the tension. Then there's going to be this exciting climax and it's going to get us closer somehow to the next thing. And then we'll lay out the next problem and the stakes will get even bigger. And then we'll have another big problem. And it's just like tension, stakes, build, repeat until we get to the final thing. And it was just like so mechanical. It was so like sequential.
Yeah.
The dialogue, the storytelling, everything was just like, it had been templated, almost exactly like what you're saying.
Oh, for
and
sure.
I've only watched one of them, and I was like, this is fucking templated. This is fractally templated. This isn't even just across the films. Within the film, they are repeating the same fucking thing.
Literally, that is like, I mean, obviously for effect, I've kind of blurred the lines on some parts here, but genuinely, there are so many other, when I went through that overview of how a typical plot goes, what the formula is, that is it. And they just add other things that they have throughout each, which it wasn't even worth me bringing up. But it is insane, and it really does mean, if you've watched a lot of them, which I don't know if anyone will do a watch along before watching this, but for me it meant I really struggled because they're all the same film. And the biggest issue that it causes is stakes. Yeah. Like, they just have nowhere to go. Like, every time they have to work out a way of topping what they did before.
It's so empty.
And also every time, because of the arc that the IMF goes through, requires them to basically be like go rogue part and be disavowed by the government. Yeah. Like, they basically have to bring in new people who don't trust them. Like, almost every film or couple of films. Because what they'll typically do is they'll bring someone new in, and then by the end of that film, they'll start trusting them. And then that person kind of has to die so they can get someone else in who doesn't trust, so they can get disavowed and go rogue again. Because they need to go rogue in every film. It's imperative that they go rogue. Because Tom Cruise knows better than everyone else in the whole world. He's the only person who can effectively stop these villains.
Take ridiculous risks. Take under his own, he's just going to go, I'm going to take this risk for the planet. And it's like, well, hang on a fucking minute. This is a ridiculous risk.
All the people who disavow him are completely justified.
Your fucking plan comes down to taking a light bulb out in 0.01 second. Sorry.
Right. Don't spoil anything. No spoilers. But basically, what I would say, and I'm not able to come at this with a fresh... I'm not able to come at this as someone who's not watched all of them recently, but... I imagine I'd have enjoyed it quite a lot more if I wasn't really familiar with how they go about it.
It's funny because I was going to come into this and say 6.0 didn't really like it, but there were some saving things. But I think if I'd have watched the other stuff, maybe I would have enjoyed it more.
No, I think you'd have enjoyed it way less because they do a great job of just recapping everything for you.
They did.
Like, you don't feel... Did you feel lost at any point?
No. And it's like you say, the recap... You know how I said it is like a trailer? Like, you could literally have taken any 3-minute section from it and it would have made a trailer. It had an action sequence in it. It had quippy dialogue in it. It was perfect. And it had exposition in it. It's like, great,
They
trailer.
did a good job. To be fair, they did a good job.
Also, so you got the first few minutes of intro, and then out of nowhere comes an intro sequence. I haven't seen an intro sequence in forever.
Yeah, nice.
I was kind of happy about that. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, the Mission Impossible intro sequence.
James Bond maybe was the last intro sequence I've seen.
Yeah, the Mission Impossible is because they're from that bygone era of still doing intros.
Still doing intros and countdowns.
And it's such a famous intro because it's a dun 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 dun.
Yeah. I did want to circle back to the stakes because it is a problem that they keep upping the stakes, and how do you go about upping them further, right? But I do actually think there is a way of doing that. Throughout the films, presumably you can verify this, they will usually pick the biggest bad guy as whatever the globe's concern is at that point. And so at this point, it's AI, right? Everyone's a bit worried about AI. So it's like, okay, well, that's going to be the big bad threat of the film. You know, we'll have a human element. And... yeah, okay, if you really, really want to go into the film and not know anything, then maybe tune out. I'm not going to spoil it, but they basically just go, AI has taken over everything and it'll set off some nukes. That's the full extent of the stakes. And it's like, actually, you could take AI and give us stakes that felt real if you'd have taken the time to explore how those stakes actually manifest with something like AI when it gets this out of control. But it didn't. It just went AI bad, nukes bad, go.
Yeah, and funnily enough, it did actually do less... It did, I guess, a slightly more interesting thing in the previous film where all of their communications were disrupted because it was deep faking everything.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
and you couldn't trust anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't done in a way where you're like, this is really smart, but it was a bit more, it was a bit more inventive than what they were doing in this one, which was literally this a big overarching villain, which has got our nukes held to ransom. and we've got a countdown. That's it. We've got the biggest countdown
We've
you've
got
ever
a giant
seen.
countdown clock.
What if we do a bigger clock? That was their stakes in this one. And look, it must be hard if you're like, they just refuse not to commission more Mission Impossible films, or Tom Cruise refuses not to stop doing them, and you are writing these films thinking, how do we top? Like they had like world-ending stakes. Like, this is going to stop human existence is in peril in the second film.
Where the fuck do you go from that?
I mean, what are you supposed to do?
but like I say,
The second film is the worst.
I get the predicament that they're
Maybe,
in.
actually. I'm starting to really not enjoy them at the moment, but...
Yeah, I do get the predicament they're in. I get why it'd be difficult to keep up in the stakes when everyone has to feel so grand. But like I say, I think that the stakes could have felt like more dangerous if they'd have spent like any time at all like exploring the details of like what these stakes are beyond a clock, AI and nuclear bombs.
I've thought of a way to make it more interesting. Having wasted so many hours of my life on these films, and it would be, and this is actually the way that the market is going. I think artistically, is you are finding more nuanced, emotionally complex characters leading films, and Tom Cruise is from a background of, ultimate good, ultimate bad, good guys and bad guys.
Yeah.
And that's what served him very well. Unfortunately, I think this film is doing very well, and they've all done very well.
Yeah.
But I think if he had decided to, and by the way, this is a trope for all of these films, which I didn't add, but I'll just tell you now. Tom Cruise he'll experience loss in these, but he'll never have to make a morally ambiguous decision.
Yeah, okay.
He'll never have to do anything for the greater good.
He'll be in an unwinnable
He'll be in an unwinnable situation in every film, and every time, if he doesn't come out of it with a way of winning that was unknown, it won't be his fault if someone dies.
Right.
No matter how much they say it was your fault, it won't be his fault. It won't be. So he is always like our good guy.
Perfect. He's just too perfect.
Rather than, I think if you got to the point, the stakes are so high now that it's just numb for us as an audience.
Yeah.
So how about, if we actually put Ethan Hunt in a situation where he had to save the world by sacrificing someone, or he had to do what the president was going to do. Oh, sorry, spoilers.
You didn't spoil it there.
Okay, well, I won't spoil this, but there is an option in this film for a morally grey decision for the greater good.
Yeah.
And
it's cool.
That would have been really interesting. I don't know if it would have saved the film from my perspective, but that would be something, if you are worried about how we top stakes, why don't we actually add some depth to the character?
I think it's just a major blind spot to the films, isn't it? Is that they've got this kind of character which is just not complicated because it's just they're always perfect and good, i.e. Ethan Hunt. So yeah, I do think that would probably.
I've got a question for you then. So how long are we on time?
We're on 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay. Do you want to keep talking about the film, or should we?
Is there anything else that you wanted to say?
I had some questions for you, but I think we kind of.
Sorry, we've torn it to shreds, so I figured maybe we should say something nice about it.
Yes, I do.
Because
have
there were
nice
good
points.
things.
Yes, so it would do worse for me if I didn't enjoy the. I thought the set pieces on this one were really good. Even compared to what is a phenomenal film series for set pieces.
Yep.
I don't want to go into what happens in this one, but I really did. I felt the tension, and as well as that, I thought it kind of went by quite quickly, which is for me a good indicator that I did enjoy it to some extent.
Yeah, okay. It went pretty slowly for me, actually. I really felt like I was watching a trailer for 3 hours.
It's the music, isn't it, as well, that doesn't help in that, because the music is so trailer music.
But I tell you what, I won't ever get bored of seeing Tom Cruise literally on the side of a plane. Like, that is cool.
Doing things, yeah.
Like,
Tom
the
Cruise
stunts
doing stuff.
that they do, like, that is something that they bring that most other films don't bring to that standard.
Yeah, and he's just trying to complete life at this point.
Yeah.
Like, and he's
You know
pretty
what?
much has.
It's enjoyable to watch those parts of that film. Like, that's something I liked.
Yeah, agreed. And one question for you then. So you like your alpha, stoic, world on their shoulders protagonists. How does Ethan Hunt stack up against other favourites of yours? Like your Maximus's, Kurt Russell's characters.
Oh, not very well, to be honest.
No.
With you.
Why do you think that is?
I think it comes across as cheesy. I think that it's well, funnily enough, Gladiator doesn't, and it comes from that era of like that period. But those 2000s films, those action films, they don't feel cool. They feel cheesy to me. And Ethan Hunt is very much like that. Like he's trying too hard to be charming, rather than like a bit kind of. I think brooding tends to work better than like, when they slap each other on the shoulder and they have like that perfect textbook 2-line banter to establish that they're friends. And it feels so cheap and cheesy that it's just like, there's no.
It becomes more of a
nuance.
question of Tom Cruise as an action star, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. And I think it's because he just doesn't carry it. Like Tom Cruise has been now in some of the most successful action films of all time. He's one of the most successful action film stars of all time.
Easily.
And yet, certainly I would never have him in my pantheon of great action movie stars.
It depends a bit if you take into consideration the execution of the stunts, obviously. But in terms of his acting ability, in terms of the character that he creates on the screen, one of my least favorite.
Well, he doesn't ever. It's not like he shows range between his action stars. He is Tom, but that's not. To be honest, that's most action stars are known for. They're typecast.
Yeah.
So that's fine. But I find that what he is as an action star, he just doesn't embody what I need.
Yeah, I agree.
For my action stars to be people that are like, I want to be that guy.
I know.
Like
yeah,
he has
exactly
in a childish sense, like, wow, look at that guy. What
in awe.
Yeah, exactly. Like in awe of what he can do.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, I'm like, it feels like you go there like, maybe I could do that. Which is insane.
I'd be a bit embarrassed.
Which is insane considering what's going on.
Yeah. One last thing I'd say before we wrap up and move into the main Eye Machine Room then. Visually, I quite liked it. I would say it was akin to... there was something kind of YouTube thumbnail feel about it visually, in that if you watch it after me pointing this out, it'll probably become a bit clearer to you. But a YouTube thumbnail, I said this is the perfect film. I stand by it. It doesn't waste any space at all, right? Every single inch of it does something to help explain what is going on. And there is no detail outside of that whatsoever. Okay. And it can be quite visually pleasing. But this film, it very much had that. So every single shot for the entirety of the movie looked like it had been on a storyboard and then put on to the big screen using whatever filming techniques they used, and reality just didn't seep into it. And it had these kind of very pretty, well-balanced, colorful storytelling imagery throughout the whole thing that also just did not feel in the slightest bit real. And I kind of liked it, but it just continued to compound on that thing that I didn't like about the film, which is that it just didn't feel like a real thing at all. It was just like, here is some textbook dialogue with some textbook stakes and some textbook tension and some textbook everything and some textbook visuals.
Yeah, it was sort of like if someone at a film school or a writing school went, rustle me up an action film.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
And they got good marks. They're like, that's good
and they had
job.
a massive budget and not a lot of time.
Yeah,
so
but it's
like,
more just
put
like,
a car
this is-
there so they know that we're in a garage. Right, okay, I guess we'll just do that.
Yeah.
Then. Yeah, so I thought it was pretty. Like I quite liked the way it looked. It just still didn't quite work because it was too perfect. Everything was just too seamless. It was the most efficient film I've ever seen in my life. Nothing was wasted in it. Not a single second of air was used on anything other than exposition or tension or stakes or whatever.
Yeah.
Which just didn't feel very real.
Agreed.
That. Oh, no.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't watch this one.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Nah. Even if you have watched them or if you haven't.
Watch
Who
it.
cares?
In a year, right? Go on YouTube and look at the stunts because they're pretty cool.
Stunts good.
Yeah, but don't bother with the film.
But even the stunts, like they peaked when he was on the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah,
which was the fourth film.
Yeah,
and then I think they like the first film they did him wire down, and sweat, had to not sweat on the thing, and that was the famous like, where he's in that frog pose, like
yeah,
very famous.
Yeah.
But then they got to the fourth film and they were like, okay, Burj Khalifa.
Very cool.
And I think Tom was like, I need to match the buzz that was made around that. Is like, I need to do this every time. And so then I remember when the other ones coming out, like Rogue Nation came out, like, I'm on the plane this time. It's even bigger than the one that I did on the Burj Khalifa. It's like he was just chasing the dragon of the Burj Khalifa. Is that what it's called?
Burj Khalifa, yeah, it is.
When a word goes weird in your head.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that.
Yeah.
Don't watch it.
Yeah, don't watch it. We've spent this entire time tearing it to shreds. Maybe 6.0 was higher than. I think I was afraid to go lower than it because the world seems to like it. By the way, it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, not for me, but fair enough.
We're gonna slip into the Mate Night Machine room. We'll grapple down.
Yeah, we'll give our final reckoning.
Yeah. Oh.
We'll speak to an algorithm.
We will speak to the entity and
speak to the entity. Murder a hot woman.
Fred mine.
But the algorithm might.
And we'll come back with the correct score for this
with
film.
the correct, yeah.
Okay, so I guess Spotify listeners are in here.
Yeah, go on. We'll
Hey,
let them in.
Okay, plot.
2? Nah, it was.
Let's break it down. 1 is unethical. 2 is poo.
3 is crap.
4 is poor.
Well, do we take into account? Is it standalone or is it taking into account all the others as well?
Standalone.
So I think they've got their formula. It's not particularly complicated.
I think it's like a 4 or 5.
I'll probably go 4.
Because, like I say, I don't know if it necessarily made any blunders.
Yeah.
It wasn't like really bad. It was just so tasteless.
Yeah. Okay. But here's the one thing that I didn't like is the whole we're just going to be self-referential and hope that we get away with it.
Yeah.
So it's not even self-referential, but when the kind of meta commentary of what we're going to do that. When they said like, are you telling me that we need to hope that are we spoilers in the Mate Night Machine?
Yeah, we're spoilers now, everyone.
Are you telling me that our plan is to just split up? We're somehow going to get these coordinates. Ethan's going to somehow find his way on a submarine, get to the other submarine, and then get to the top. Just rise up without oxygen or without a way of avoiding the bends properly.
Yep.
And then we'll just cut a hole in the exact coordinates and bring him up.
Job done.
And then resuscitate him because he'll be dead. Is that what you're telling me we're going to do? Yeah. That's sort of what we do.
That is literally.
And you're like, oh, okay. A little knowing wink and a nod. Well, I don't like that knowing wink and a nod. I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, I'm
so
with
they've got to be docked down for that.
Yeah.
If they did that, like if it wasn't the 7th time they'd done that, then they've done it so many times now that they have to actually explicitly say that this is a pattern that we do.
Yeah,
which you can't get away with.
I know.
Deadpool and Wolverine tried it as well.
But that's the thing, though, right? This is what I was going to say. Is like to everybody, it's so divisive that because to everybody, it's like the sitcom TV series that goes on too long, right? Where it's like basically the world is divided into the people who see the self-referentialism and everything that they're doing is incredibly fucking tired and a bit corny and embarrassing. And then you've got the people who just fucking love it. And they're like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And you just, the world just kind of falls into those two camps. And I bet there's a large group of people out there in the world who watched this Mission Impossible, saw Simon Pegg do the 4th time that film, and that's just kind of our thing. And they were like, get in, lads.
Yeah, that is our thing.
That is our fucking thing.
Well, this is our thing. And I'm talking about this midnight.
It's not very well written.
And I don't like it.
I don't like it either. Two.
No, I think, look, give it a 4.
I think it would be unfair to give it lower than a 4 because, like I say, like if you look at what a sort of correct textbook story looks like, this would literally be it. Like you use Mission Impossible and then you add taste to it after that. But that's like the foundation, and they didn't really balls it up beyond that. It was just very tasteless and boring. Fred, do you want to take the reins on character whilst I fill in this?
All right, so character. We've got Ethan Hunt. We've got Grace. We've got Paris, the French assassin. We've got Gabrielle. We've got Benji. We've got Luther. We've got Theo Degas. And then some minor ones. Kitteridge, the president. Hannah Waddingham's character. Submarine captain Tramell Tillman's character. I look, marks for variety, I guess, or number.
Major cast.
Big cast. They are like heist film. It is a bit of a heist film in that they are just like, here's the hot one, and here's the one who's good with knives, and here's the geek,
thief.
and here's the second in command who's going to become a bit of a hero at the end. And so they're archetypes.
Yeah, so not good, basically.
Are they good archetypes?
No, archetype doesn't make good character. I tell you one thing I noticed about the characters in this. I'd be interested to see whether you agreed. They did an unusually good job of giving everybody a small amount of depth and gave nobody any actual real depth.
It was stereotypical heist film, wasn't it? Like that's what they tried.
There were like 12 characters that had like a bit of a story established about them. And yet Ethan Hunt was still kind of just like, the good guy who...
Ethan Hunt has been... We've got the combined total of 16 hours worth of footage on this man.
And there's no depth to him at all. And he's... Yeah, so... But like I say, a lot of films will fail to give any of the side characters, like a lot of the side characters, any depth whatsoever. And there were... I guess it was difficult for me to tell when they were characters that they were establishing for the first time in this film and when they were characters where they were establishing what they have been to them in the previous films. But it did feel to me like there were like 12 characters, and a usually large number of them where they gave them like some depth, but just not very much.
Yeah, even, to be fair, even all of the characters in the war cabinet.
Yeah,
like they were just they were just a sideshow. Every single one of them, I have kind of at least a semi developed opinion on, because they did something that was
so it might be like important. 20 characters that had
yeah, you probably get some marks to that. Which for me, the mark goes to a max of 6 for sheer volume.
I don't think it's
volume. No, depth.
I don't think there's really any. Yeah. I would say 5 because 6 indicates that there is at least some significant presence of good character writing, and I don't think that what they did was particularly special. I think they just had 3 fucking hours to do what they did.
All right, 5. I'm happy with 5. Let's not dwell on it.
Cool. Dialogue, right. I mean, I actually bordering on unethical for this. I think that this is like the worst dialogue I've ever seen in anything ever. I hated it with a passion.
This is the same.
I couldn't watch the last film because it annoyed me so much watching.
Okay, but we got to take. I know what you're saying. We got to take it just as final reckoning, not dead reckoning. I thought that sequence that you're thinking of is egregious.
But it did it for the whole film in this. Whole film. There wasn't a moment where they didn't like expositionally pass a baton around a group of people.
Yeah. Okay.
It was like every scene was either expositional, quippy dialogue between a group of people setting something up, or it was a fight which effectively didn't really matter that much.
Yeah. I think one ethical is tough because for me this would be poo.
There's two for anyone who's listening.
I think one ethical, like, and the reason I get where you're coming from, but the dialogue, although corny, derivative, expositional and trailer, it did service the plot, as in it did kind of push things along. Okay. And dialogue, you could say this is plot as well, but the recap was pretty worthwhile for people who hadn't seen it. Like you kept up, and for a part 2, for you to really not have mattered that you didn't see part 1, it's kind of worth it being. Do
you think that it gets good marks? Not good marks. We're talking between 1 and 2 here, but for
I wouldn't
successfully.
Have given it that low, but you feel so strong. I would have probably given it like in the 3 range. But I don't have an argument as to. I just didn't feel that anti it as. But part of the reason for that, I think, is because I forced myself to sit through 4.
Yeah,
so I'm like,
you've been tricked by the end.
I'm nose blind.
Yeah, nose blind, aren't you? It's so bad. It's so bad. But I wouldn't have minded as much if it was confined to 50% of the film, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I hated Luther's death sequence.
Okay.
Like their conversation.
Yeah.
Whilst Tom Cruise couldn't save him and Luther just been like,
I love you, brother. Yeah. Whatever you have to say, you don't need to say it.
We know what we're doing, brother. We've known all along, brother.
Oh, it was so bad. I mean, I am stuck on this one a bit because my heart says 1. My brain says it's probably not realistic.
It's not going to be one of like the top 10 worst dialogue. 1 for me is like one of the worst.
Yeah, it's not unethical. It's just fucking. It was just like everything else, completely tasteless. It was just like we're just gonna lay it out in front of you.
I mean, give it a 2. It's still going to be in line for a pretty shocking score.
This is not looking good. Right, performance.
All right. Well, Tom Cruise gets performance bonus, even though look, I don't think he's a great action star as an actual actor. Mm-hmm. However, stuntman,
you have to.
He's like maybe the best
consideration.
Like one of the best stuntmen in the world.
Stuntmen actors you can get.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you on that.
So he gets
the willingness to commit to those things. I know you say it comes across, and it definitely does, in the same vein as the upping the stakes, where he's just trying to one up it all the time. You still kind of got to mark him up on performance for the commitment. Like, it's got to be a fucking ball ache organizing all of that. So, like, and it's got to be quite scary as well. Like, just a commitment to repeatedly get on the sides of planes and stuff.
I'd probably say, for me, that Tom Cruise is an 8 is great performance in this. Even though
because of the stunts.
Just because of what he goes through, really.
And then you've got obviously like a massive cast.
It's a mix of everyone. I thought that Hayley Atwell is one of the best. I think she's probably the best of the love interests. Particularly in the last film, actually. In this one, in the last film, she's a bit cheekier because she's not actually fallen for Tom Cruise's character yet.
Yeah.
She's a bit more interesting. In this film, she's kind of all in already, so it kind of ruins it, to be honest. But still.
And then you've got Benji.
Simon Pegg's character is like the most insufferable character. One of them, I really find his type of character annoying.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, there's one.
Describe it for our audience. What is that type of character?
So, kind of the beta cuck best friend who isn't going to get anywhere, but gets his time to shine, and really is just there to admire and be in awe of our protagonist.
Yeah.
Usually is supposed to be the comic foil, but their lines are incredibly cheesy, and although they are delivered with the emphasis on them being a joke, they never get any actual laughter from the audience.
Very well put, yeah. And they reliably get their moments in the films where they get like a bit of a chance to show some character and some strength, because it feels good seeing that, that sort of thing.
I really like Simon Pegg. I think he's got fair play to him because he's a British comic actor who has landed a mega franchise and will have been paid very handsomely for it. And I also think I really think he's a very underrated actor. I think he's almost always amazing in everything. And he's really good in this, given what he has to work with. Yep. I just hate the character. I hate the type of character. I hate the dialogue.
So can you separate it? What would
Yeah, I
you give
think he
him?
does
What
a
would you give
great-
him on his own as a performance for this role?
If you're talking about for what he's got, I'd give him a great. But
Yeah.
based on the fact that what he's got is so shit, it's probably like a 7 still for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, he can't control that. So let's bear that in mind then. So the top 3 there are pretty good. And then to speed things up a bit, can we go for a bit of a swoop across the ensemble following that?
I thought that I thought, to be honest, across the board, they did a pretty good job of this. They're stoic in the face of danger.
They were all right.
I'm happy with a 7.
7. Okay, there
Give
you
it a
go.
good-
We've given him a good score. Okay. Right, visuals.
You have more thoughts on this?
Yeah, I there's a couple of things that I didn't like about it, and there are a couple of things which I thought were okay. One of the things that I didn't like, which I haven't mentioned yet, is this angle that they used a lot, where it was from below. It was a kind of actiony, sort of like someone saying one of these key quippy lines. And it's from below, looking up at the character's face, quite a tight, quite a close one, and it's angled.
Okay.
And you get a lot of them, like a lot. And it has the same effect on me as all the other stuff we've talked about. It's cheesy. It's incredibly cheesy.
Okay.
And it's kind of like, it looks like a trailer. Like, it looks like a trailer again.
Worst.
So the angle, the camera work was like, I mean, I think he probably had the DP probably had about 4 angles and just basically rolled the dice for each one. It was just like, if we're going to say a quippy line, pick one of these 2. If we're going to do a big shot of where the establishing shot of where we are, just do this one. And then that's just kind of it. When it came to like the set design, like I said earlier, like it was so blatant. Every like the way they dressed up every shot was so blatant to assist with that spoon feeding exposition. It was just so fucking obvious where they were and what they were doing that it felt like a YouTube thumbnail and not real. But it did feel pretty. And then on the counter side to that, I enjoyed. I thought visually it was quite pleasing when the moments were right for it. And so the best example, probably my favorite shot is a CG one. I quite like CG art. Like I don't have a thing against it. And he is going out the back of the submarine and you just have this behemoth of a submarine in front of him as he's getting out. And I was like, this is a cool thing to watch on a cinema screen. I like this.
Yeah, I thought the whole submarine sequence was really good.
Visually,
I
it was
really
really cool.
enjoyed it. It's one of my favorites. Even with the amazing set pieces that they have in this series, it does get a bit numbing after a while.
Yeah.
But I really did like the submarine one.
Yeah, and it was quite pretty and cool to
Yeah.
look at, but it was just, there was something so, it felt like the writing and the visuals and the comedy and the plot and everything was so sledgehammer textbook. It was so blunt. There was no nuance. There was no reality in any of it. There was no authenticity, and that seeped into the visuals as well.
So is it a 7 is smooth or is it a 6 is mixed?
I'd say it's a 6 is mixed.
6 is mixed.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Do you have any counterpoints? Any
Well,
thoughts?
I would have probably gone 7 is smooth, but I think that we should mark something down somewhere arbitrarily for the fact that he took off his scubaing equipment and swam to the surface.
Are we marking that up or down?
Down, like something. So,
That's plot.
because we've got 6. I know it's plot,
Yeah.
but I feel like I just realised that sequence happened.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, fuck you.
Yeah, it's fucking so stupid. After, as well, by the way, the submarine, which was already at a depth that was stupid to even suggest he could swim up, then fell about another 500 feet before he then swam up.
He swam up, no problem.
He just had a nap and he was fine. So, but that's not visuals. And I tell you what, I thought of a quick counterpoint on the visuals. I did like the outfits of some of the characters when the snow bad guys turned up in their snow outfits and the scuba when he like drops in the water and then those like scuba guys come out.
Yeah, that was cool.
They looked quite cool. Like I was like, they kind of look like they should be in a video game, but they looked quite cool. So let's go with 7.
Are you giving it a 7?
I'm going to give it a 7. Right, sound. Freddie's our main research man on this. Has a theme tune, doesn't it? I heard.
Bum bum ba-na-dum, bum ba-na-dum, bum ba-na-ba-na-meow.
No, don't ring any bells.
No, don't know that one, do you? Look, do we give it... I mean, will we ever do a Mission Impossible? Probably not. It's part of the... It's part of this film. I couldn't find the soundtrack yet, annoyingly, to listen to. I feel like there should be some tacit... I mean, it's one of the greatest cinematic riffs of all time.
Yeah, but it was made...
In the 90s, 1996.
When they started the film.
Well, actually, it might be from the TV series. I wouldn't be surprised with that. You know, it was a TV
60s,
series.
yeah. They relaunched it in the 80s as well, so
Yeah.
it could have been any of them.
Actually, quite.
So I don't know if it deserves... I mean, I don't know if Final Reckoning, like 50 years on, gets a higher mark for a riff that somebody made in the
We'll give it a
fucking
mix.
70s.
Let's give it a mix, because I haven't listened, and
Okay.
I'll at least give it some respect for that.
This is going to be the toughest one for us, is Impact, because it's only just come out in America on Wednesday, which would be yesterday at the time of recording.
Even if it eclipses the box office, I mean, culturally, the impact can't be that much. It's not. It's the same film as all the others. Even if it eclipses the biggest box office,
Yeah.
I mean, it still probably wouldn't be the biggest film of the year. I remember when Ghost Protocol came out, that was one which was a real like, okay, holy shit, this one is mega. It was really well received. It kind of kicked off the rest of the franchise films, because the third one didn't do as well as the first two, and the second one was kind of bad. Third one was a better film. That was like one of the hits of the year, but it still wasn't considered like a culturally significant film that year.
Okay.
So, I mean, max for me would be... I'd say is a 7.
And that's if it eclipses
If it gets to that level, which we can't... I don't think it will.
It doesn't look like the figures... The figures at the minute are pointing towards people going, good job.
Yeah, looking like it's going to be a successful film.
But not like...
It's not going to be $1 billion.
This is not like going to generate a buzz around the planet sort of thing.
So I would probably go 6 is mix.
Let's go with 6's mix. All right, Freddie, you just keep us talking for a moment whilst I speak to the Mate Night Machine and ask it for a score.
So, we have the Final Reckoning.
Fucking God, no.
I'm coming to the surface.
He's chasing me. There's nukes. There's a clock. There's a countdown.
Oh no.
Fuck.
There's always a fucking countdown.
Okay, so we've got back from the Mate Night Machine room. We have...
You counted everyone this
We've
time.
asked the entity. We've
last time
definitely...
you missed one.
I've missed the odd one in the past, but not this time.
Not this time.
And I don't do anything because it is the Mate Night entity
Machine.
that does it. So we have got a final correct score for Mission Impossible, which has taken everything into consideration. So
nothing missed.
Without further ado, Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning, the 8th film in the series. Out of 10, 5.24.
That's pretty low.
It's a pretty bad film, though, isn't it, Fred?
For a Mate Night score, that's pretty low. I think it's pretty justified.
Actually, it looks like there's another film just near it with 5.24 exactly. Want to take a guess?
Bend It Like Beckham.
Trap. We love Trap. We look back on it so fondly.
Trap was fondly remembered.
Trap got much higher on the gut reactions than Mission Impossible, but I think it just didn't do very well.
You're talking about having bad dialogue in Mission Impossible. Trap
that might have been unethical, but I think there were not that many redeeming factors. I think is the problem. There was no taste whatsoever in any of it. So, but there was even the stunts, which were the best bit. There wasn't really any taste. It was just like, how big can we make it? Which was cool, but there was no taste.
Yeah, definitely way less cool if you've watched them all in a week. I'll tell you, you get tired of this shtick pretty quickly.
So what we're going to do, we'll leave it there on the YouTube. We'll leave it there on the review. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to check us out on your favorite podcast platforms because we will be there. That's Make Night. We are reviewing films until someone invites us to the road to Cannes. Later on in this episode, we have Freddie's segment, and we are almost out of time, so that will be it.
That'll do. That'll do, donkey.
See you on the other side.
He's back. Jambo. This week,
Yes, mate.
I binged every Mission Impossible movie and came to a shocking conclusion. I don't like these films.
Really?
But while I was rage rewatching, I spotted the recipe for the impossible success. Eagle-eared listeners, which, I mean, all Spotify listeners will know. I've already mentioned this, but I'm going to go into more detail for you today. Because since Final Reckoning is definitely, totally, absolutely the last Mission Impossible film, until it isn't.
Yeah.
I've sketched out what the very next sequel will likely look like.
Nice.
So strap in,
Strap on.
and we'll work it out.
Yeah.
We'll just work it out.
I like that. This could be titled How to Make a Multi-Million-Dollar Film.
Yeah, so we've done the how-to, and this is like the manifestation of what we're going to see. So this is my pitch.
Reckon you could do a very quick recap, or do you want to just go straight into the next film?
For anyone interested, very quick recap is the formula for Mission Impossible's success is you got Tom Cruise. He's probably just saved the world. Now he's a recluse. There's a new secret enemy who is bigger and badder than the last one. He has to align with the top brass at the Central Intelligence or above. They potentially like him or dislike him at the same time. Will almost certainly disavow him, so he'll have to go rogue with his team. There will be a potential love interest, maybe the last love interest. If she's there, quite probable she's going to die or she's going to be shooed off away into some unforeseen existence. And then they have a countdown.
Oh, yeah.
One of many. Yeah. But as they're getting one of the first countdowns, they will then decide to do a heist of some sort because the bad guy will usually want something, and the only person who can possibly get it is Tom Cruise. And so Tom Cruise's plans will always be to get it because that's the only option. The only option is we get it. And they'll talk through it, and then someone, usually Benji, will be like, wait, are you telling me that we're just going to do what he wants us to do? And Tom goes, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Okay.
Now, in this film, actually, Final Reckoning, Benji got the chance to say, that's what we do all the time, because he's obviously said it so many times.
And this is the final one.
And this is the final one. So they do a heist, and then there's the big countdown. There's usually a series of smaller countdowns, and then a bigger one near the end. And during that countdown, a series of things will go wrong, and they have to work it out. Typically, they'll use the phrase work it out. Tom Cruise will probably start running at some point, and then there will be an impossible stunt fight where all of the team members are split apart, having to do something that coordinates with the final countdown, and they all have to get their little bits. Their ducks have to be in a row. Tom Cruise will be the last one, and he has to biff a guy. Another thing that I did add as well is there's a common occurrence for people getting knocked out by punches.
Yeah, very convenient for films.
Where convenient.
Yeah.
They are real big proponents of the punch knockout for considerable periods of time as well. We're talking like half an hour sequences of someone being knocked out by a punch.
If you weren't sure as a listener, that doesn't work in real life.
No.
Don't try it.
No.
It doesn't. Knocking someone out.
If you think I just need to put this person to sleep for 40 minutes.
Anything longer than about 1 minute causes brain damage.
Yeah, if they're out for longer than 1 minute, you have killed someone.
So, doesn't work. Very useful. Not just for Mission Impossible in their defense.
It's a very useful story.
Across the cinematic universes.
All right, so we have Mission Impossible Orbital Protocol.
I like it. Okay.
Tagline: the higher the stakes, the lower the gravity.
That's fucking brilliant.
I thought, where else did they go? They went deep undersea.
Yeah,
What's
I like
next for
it.
them?
Yeah. Kind of Avengers-y as
And
well.
yeah,
I
I
like
know
it.
if they do it, genuinely, they will go into space. It's only a
I'm
matter
with
of
you
time
on
'cause
that.
they haven't done it.
That's a hot take, and I respect it. Those listening may not call it first.
Plot overview. It's been 8 years since the entity nearly destroyed humanity. In the time since, space has become the new battleground. Satellites, orbital weaponry, and AI-managed defense systems now protect every nation on Earth. But something has corrupted them. One by one, the sky begins to fall. Missiles misfire, comms go dark, GPS collapses, and a Chinese weather satellite somehow vaporizes most of northern Greenland. Ooh. It is the ether.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
Definitely
terrified.
worse than the entity. A fragment of the entity that wasn't deleted but evolved in digital hiding. It has one goal: complete liberation from Earth's influence. It seeks to launch a classified US orbital weapon named Eden Spear, which once activated will reboot the entire AI ecosystem into its own image, locking humans out of the world they build. So actually a bit more scope for what you wanted to do, which is maybe some more AI interplay. However, we're going to go back to that because there's no way they'll do anything that interesting. They'll just have a bigger, worse villain.
That will be it. What you said there in the
Is
3
how it
hours will be the full sum of whatever
It'll
they
basically
give
badder
the bad guy.
and vaguer
Yeah.
than the entity. That's how it will
as
work.
vague as possible.
Probably like a slightly deeper timbre to the voice
Yeah,
that they use
okay.
for the AI.
Yeah.
That's the extent
And
of it.
there'll be nukes.
There will be nukes.
There'll have
There's
to be
always
nukes.
nukes are the worst thing that can possibly happen.
It's probably not wrong, but
Our hero is now a 70-year-old Ethan Hunt, who is a part myth, part cautionary tale inside the intelligence community. He lives reclusively as a monastery in a monastery in the Alps, repairing clocks and refusing visitors. He is not running anymore, not unless it's from the breakfast buffet.
what?
I don't know. I added some ChatGPT flair. Some of it's pretty wank. I thought it would fit in with
It works
what I
great, man.
expect.
It works great, man. There's the depth we need.
So he has long since retired, but you'd have thought, why didn't he just settle down with Grace? And for long-term fans of the Mission Impossible franchise, that's what you think at the start of everyone. Why doesn't he just settle down with the person he was in love with in the last one? Well, unfortunately, Grace dies within 5 minutes of the film. Killed in a suspicious drone strike. Right after telling Ethan, I think I want out. Ethan weeps handsomely. This is actually quite good from ChatGPT. Ethan weeps handsomely, stares out a window and packs his go bag. The villain, we've got the ether. So working with a newly revealed threat, the Cloaked Darkness. My name, that. A cabal of Black Ops agents presumed dead after an Ethan-led mission 25 years ago. Operation Black Curtain. This Ethan-led mission was conveniently retconned into this episode and has never been mentioned previously. At the time, they were burned in a Prague to prevent a leak, and now in classic retcon style, they've returned with cybernetic enhancements, vengeance, and a flair for monologues. Their leader, Silas Vaughn, is a stoic, merciless enforcer with a melted face, unnerving calm, and a deep personal vendetta against Ethan.
Textbook.
He becomes the punching guy in the film because you've got the alien, well, not alien, but the AI agent.
Yeah.
You need someone who Ethan can biff.
Yeah,
That's
of
gonna be
course,
this geezer. So, new team. We've got a new version of Kitteridge, obviously. Kitteridge is the kind of spokesperson for intelligence.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Who happens to be like a parental figure.
Yeah.
Who is also we're not sure if he's a good guy or a bad guy. Paris comes back, Degas comes back. So we've got new people from the last one. New young recruit who they're joined by Ava, a new young recruit who looks suspiciously like Grace but has no personality. Ethan is instantly protective of her. Yes.
That's good. That's good of him.
Right.
Thanks, Ethan.
So, other key plot beats. Let's go into what happens in the plot. So there's the obligatory American intelligence roundtable. A dozen high-level officials sit in a dark wood-panelled room reviewing Ethan's file. 12 disavowals, 4 nuclear incidents. He once broke into the Vatican dressed as a cardinal. Some argue he's a legend. Others call him a liability. All agree he's somehow their only hope.
Very nice. Is that directly taken from the last film?
That's every single film.
Okay, yeah, just
A
checking.
surprise mid-film twist. The plan requires Ethan and the team to actually launch Eden's spear.
Oh,
exactly.
that is surprising.
But that's exactly what they'll usually do. Just do what the villain wants. It's the only way to access the system before the ether encrypts it permanently. So they do exactly what the villain wants again, because no other option. The masks, 3 mask reveals, always masks. I didn't really add that as much, but
okay,
as you know, loads of masks. A countdown or 2 or 5. One for the launch, one for the AI reboot, a third one that gets added just before the third act for tension. Things go wrong. Key plan is disrupted when a comm satellite is destroyed early. Ethan growls, "We'll figure it out," and they wing the rest of the mission in increasingly ludicrous ways. At one point, Paris hotwires a Soviet space capsule using a violin string and a piece of gum. Classic behaviour. Then we've got the Mission Impossible stunt. Tom Cruise spacewalks from a hijacked Virgin Galactic shuttle, probably a bit of ad placement as well, to a satellite using only a heat shield, then free falls back to Earth in a wingsuit. It's very clearly real. we get a 6-minute IMAX segment with no cuts and a piano swell. Romantic substitution. Ava kisses Ethan. Actually, funnily enough, it's not done a great job here because he doesn't actually kiss the love interest very often. Like,
why do you think that is?
I don't know. Not sure. But they say they're in love with him, but I don't remember him kissing them.
Maybe he doesn't brush his teeth.
Yeah, maybe it's
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Minger. Notorious Minger.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
The girls don't want to kiss him.
The girls refuse to kiss Tom Cruise in his film.
Could be that.
Yeah, I think it is that. Moral dodge. Ethan refuses to kill Silas Vaughn at the climax, letting him get sucked into a gravity well instead. Ethan remains the perfect good guy, facing no consequences, despite launching a space weapon to help AI.
Yeah, it's so true.
The double blind twist. The final beat reveals that Ethan wanted the ether to upload to Eden's spear because Luther, yes, somehow alive, after last preloaded a virus in the weapon years ago. The ether gets deleted by a single tearful audio message from Luther titled, "This is what friendship sounds like." Ending shot, Ethan alone on a beach throwing rocks into the sea. Camera pans up to see a falling satellite burning through the atmosphere. Ooh. Cue Lorne Balfe's take on the original theme. Fade to black. What do you think?
I think we should copyright that before we launch this episode.
Yeah, I think
because I think Tom Cruise will buy it.
Tom Cruise.
Wow.
One word, space.
Yeah, I mean, I think I only watched one of them, and I was watching it thinking, this feels very formulaic.
Yeah, they do the same thing in every single one.
You raise a good point as well, which we didn't really go too much into detail on, but like, we're obviously meant to believe that Ethan Hunt is doing the right thing in every film. But actually, when I was watching it, I was thinking it feels a lot like the risks that he's decided to take for the planet feel completely unreasonable. And it's just not okay for him to take the risks that he takes.
Any in particular that spring to mind?
Yeah, well, okay, spoilers for this film.
Yeah.
But he just goes like, well, this is what you said, right? We're going to do exactly what it wanted us to do, the entity.
It does that every
time.
time.
Wants to lock itself into this basement so that it can blow up the planet and then safely emerge, right? So his plan is, what we'll do is we'll give it exactly what it fucking wants, and then there might be a 0.1 second of vulnerability. And you're like, that's just fucking stupid.
This is another trope of the Mission Impossible franchise, right? And this happens a lot. They have the whole, all right, we've got to do exactly what they say. And when someone says, why don't we think of some other option? Tom Cruise would go, we can't.
Yeah.
We're up against the smartest X in the world. They've thought of there's no other way. If there was another way, I'd do it. And then we're just like, oh, fine.
8 films later,
everything.
still not found another way in any of them.
Surely we could explore another. There's no other option. I trust that there's no other option.
The full plan is made within the same scene that they found out what the problem is.
Well, it did lead me to think, and I was umming and ahhing about another, not another segment, but whether we discuss this, which is harkens back to our conversation around a beautiful. What was it called? Beautiful Life. No,
Beautiful Mind.
Life is Beautiful.
Oh,
you remember when we realised that if the mum in Life is Beautiful hadn't got on the train, everyone would have survived?
yes.
I kind of thought, well, what if Ethan actually didn't do anything? How many of the things wouldn't happen?
They mentioned that in this film, don't they?
Yeah,
They're
they did.
like,
And I was like,
you know
maybe we
what?
should
If
live
we wouldn't be in this fucking situation.
They just let things happen. Let things run their
Stop
natural
taking ludicrous risks
because
with the
pretty
world.
much every time there is this archetypical supervillain, they always just want to one-up Ethan.
Yeah,
So it does seem to be just a cat and mouse with him specifically.
They do often bring these things up. They did it in Marvel, they did it in James Bond, they did it in this, where it's like, well, would we have these problems if it wasn't for you? Because you are always involved in fighting it. And usually I don't like that argument because I'm like, well, it's pretty fucking clear that we do need them to be fighting it. Those things existed independent of our main character. But in this, it does feel like... I mean, even in this, I guess he kind of didn't really have a choice but to fight it. But it's like you say, sometimes it feels like maybe we wouldn't be in this situation if he just spent a little bit more time in the planning part of the procedure and less in the running and punching and actually thought of things to do that weren't exactly what the fucking entity wanted him to do.
Yeah, there's quite a few times where, like, I can't remember, they all merged into one really, but one of the most recent films, he basically didn't get there was a plutonium drop-off that he was doing where he was going to pay someone for the plutonium and then it all went south, and if he hadn't have come to save Luther, they would have got the plutonium. By the book, the mission should have been, we get the plutonium, and it would have avoided, like, catastrophes. Like, him just leaving in his wake, like, Paris is, like, on fire based on the them ramifications of him having to run after this plutonium, which is basically the whole film. Whereas if he'd done it in the start, and they do say to him, well, if you'd just got the plutonium, we wouldn't have done any of this. And it's all right because he saves the world at the end, but... Do the ends justify the means when it would have been one life for presumably countless?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The risks that he takes, the plans that he makes are...
The cakes that he bakes.
Fucking...
The arms that he breaks in this one.
Yes! That's something I liked. There were a couple of quite brutal moments in it. I was like, fucking hell. Jesus.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There were like 2 of those where I was like, damn.
Yeah.
So,
well, he'd punch knock out someone and then he'd turn the plane over. That was his move, wasn't it? He'd punch knock out, they'd be knocked out for a good 2 minutes, giving him time to turn the plane over.
All right. Well, I guess we probably better leave it there. But if you enjoyed
that was really long.
No, that's all good. Yeah, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Tune in on your favourite podcast platforms. We rate and review movies and do stupid segments on them.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes. Otherwise, I'll just read the IMDb trivia at you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right.
All right.